everyone. It's Lisa with Family Matters Law Group. I'm hoping you guys are going to be able to hear me because I'm outside. Put headphones on to try to block out some of the noise. We'll see. If not, I'll move inside. Give everybody a couple of seconds to join. A lot of our followers are from the state of Florida, but we also have many followers, especially in New York and North Carolina and Tennessee. So there's people that are outside of the state of Florida as well. I am sitting in Plantation in Broward County. Gotten many messages from friends and family because when you're looking at the news, the hurricane is so big that it looks like it's covering all of Florida, but really it's more towards the middle of Florida. Having said that, we have clients all throughout the state of Florida, and I have been getting many messages, emails, phone calls, texts about how to handle co-parenting situations. I see a question in the comments. Main question is, I am the primary care provider. I don't care. My daughter is staying with me regardless of the timeshare order, right? So let's break some of this stuff down about co-parenting and natural disasters and decision-making in these kinds of moments. We are all in a state of an emergency. A lot of us in the middle to northern part of the state are certainly in a much more dangerous situation. Everybody's nerves are on end, and we're not making the most clear and calculated decisions. So let's talk about some of this stuff. Number one, now is not the time to have this conversation because we are in the middle of a natural disaster. But when all of this is said and done, it is a really good time to contemplate making sure that your parenting plan addresses these kinds of things and has some kind of formula or system for figuring out what to do with your kids in the middle of these kinds of situations. If you have that in your parenting plan, and if you are one of our clients, you probably do have that in your parenting plan. If you have that in your parenting plan, you're gonna want to follow it to the best of your ability. What do those kinds of provisions say? Well, typically they're going to say things like whoever is exercising time sharing on the day and time that school is released and school is canceled for the following days due to a natural disaster, the child is going to shelter at home with the parent who they were with at the time that the schools were closed or at the time that announcements were made. That's kind of a concept of what you might want to do. Number one, if you have a parenting plan, follow it to the best of your ability. If your parenting plan that you feel is putting yourself or if your parenting plan is telling you to do something that you feel is going to put your child or yourself in danger, then you have to use common sense and make the best decisions you can under the circumstances. Or if you don't have a parenting plan that addresses any of this stuff, you have to do the best you can to make common sense, rational decisions under the circumstances. I had a mom call me yesterday. There is no parenting plan. I am representing her. She is in an area that is about to get a direct hit. Suppose, guys, clearly my hair is looking like I just came in from a windstorm. I moved my operation inside because the weather is not cooperating outside. I'm gonna give everybody a minute to reconnect, but as I was saying, we are in South Florida and we are not in the direct line of the storm, but as you can see from me sitting outside, we have tornado warnings, we have flooding happening. The entire state of Florida is having issues. I was telling you guys when I got disconnected about a client who called me yesterday. She is more in the direct line of hit. Her time sharing exchange typically would be tonight at around 6-7 o'clock. The co-parent is telling her that he does not give her permission to leave the state. She is telling me she doesn't know what to do. There is no parenting plan. There's no court order. Nobody's telling anybody how to do any of these things. I'm telling her to leave. We are not going to wait until 7 o'clock tonight, hours before this potentially Category 4, Category 5 storm is going to hit the state of Florida. This is one of those situations where you ask forgiveness later, you don't ask permission in advance, although you should ask permission, but if you don't get it, you don't sit around and wait on everyone to be putting themselves in a direct line of fire. You go ahead and you leave with your kid. You do the best to get back as soon as you can. You make sure you're communicating as best you can. If you are in an area that is likely to be flooded, likely to be stuck, and you have your child with you, you certainly do not want to be exchanging the child unless it is safe and reasonable and makes sense for your family to do that. I am calling upon all of you as co-parents to focus on what is best for your child. I have had parents this week with a dad who has a second house in Tennessee. He's able to go there. He can stay as long as he wants. They are in the Tampa area. They are going to get hit. And the mom does not want to allow him to take the child with him to Tennessee, even though she is staying in place in Pinellas County. That is insane. I get that it's her time sharing. I understand that. I get some people can't leave. I understand there are many, many factors that we all have to take into consideration about evacuating and about what to do with our children. But you have to make the decision for your children that is the best decision for your children. I follow a pediatrician on Instagram who's in the Tampa area. She has her children with her in the hospital for her shift, as opposed to sending them with her husband, who was going somewhere else to try to stay safe because it was the safest place for her children to be. Those are the decision-making perspectives we need to be taking into consideration right now. Is where are our kids going to be the most safe? Where are we going to be the most safe? What plan do we have in place to communicate with the other parent? Make sure that the two parents are communicating about where the child is, what the child's doing, what the safety plan is, and do not put your ego and your pride and your desire to make sure that you have all the overnights that you're allowed to have under this, that, or the other in front of an absolute natural disaster that has the potential to have devastating consequences for many of us. And even those of us in South Florida, we're out of supposedly the cone of where the direct hurricane's going to hit, but it's very likely that there's going to be some repercussions. To sum all of this up, moving forward, you definitely should have a clear natural disaster plan in place for your children so that the co-parents know what they should be doing and have a plan to follow, and we're not trying to negotiate these things in the midst of a severely stressful situation where nobody communicates well. If you don't have that, you want to use common sense to make decisions. You want to communicate effectively, and at the end of the day, you want to try to cooperate. But if you can't get cooperation, you want to make decisions that are rooted in keeping your kids safe, not in keeping them with you. And then finally, whether you have a parenting plan that tells you what to do or you don't have a parenting plan that tells you what to do, use common sense. If the other parent has a better option for your children for where they can be safe during this period of time, take that option. Protect your children. Deal with all of the time sharing stuff when all of this is said and done. If you guys have questions going on today that are sort of an emergency nature that you really need an answer to, shoot us a text message, shoot us an email. We still have to put you through our intake process, do conflict checks, all of that kind of stuff. But I am happy to do some email, text message, Q&As today for people to make sure that they know what their options are and that we're all working together to try to keep everybody safe. Just as another update, obviously the courts pretty much throughout the state of Florida are closed today and tomorrow. There's been a little bit of confusion in some of the southern counties that are not going to get a direct hit, but courts are closed. Broward County, Palm Beach County, not sure about Miami-Dade, but I would assume that they're closed. And then obviously all of our northern counties. I am doubting there will be court on Friday. Perhaps in the southern areas there will be. If you have mediations or depositions or those kinds of things scheduled, you're going to want to get in touch with everybody. No one can really force you to participate in legal proceedings when we are in a state of a natural disaster, or we've been declared a state of disaster. But you might want to if you're somewhere like here and we have internet and have the ability to move through. So, lots of stuff to take into consideration, stuff nobody wants to have to be thinking about when their homes and animals and children and lives and everything is up in the air and at risk and everyone is stressed out. But if you're co-parenting, it's stuff you do need to take into consideration. You need to be a cooperative co-parent. You need to follow your parenting plans when you can follow them and when they have directions for you. But you also need to use common sense. And if your co-parenting relationship is in such a state that the two of you cannot work together to come up with a resolution that's going to be safe for your kid, then one of you is going to have to do something. And then you're going to have to figure out what that looks like on the back end. Realize that family courts are courts of equity. At the end of the day, if you're not following a court order, what potentially can come up is a motion for contempt. If someone files a motion for contempt against you and says you didn't come to the Wednesday exchange at 7 p.m. when there was a Category 4 hurricane approaching, fairly certain that a judge is not going to be real upset about the fact that you did not show up for that 7 p.m. exchange. On the other hand, I think that if you are a parent who is forcing your kid to go out in floods, tornadoes, hurricanes to do an exchange, that's not going to be a real good look for you. And with all of those things also said, you know, what comes of a motion for contempt, right? A contempt order is the court telling you there was an order and you willfully didn't do what you were supposed to do. Number one, is a judge actually going to do that? And number two, if they do, what are going to be the consequences, like attorney's fees, makeup time, those kinds of things? I don't know. At the end of the day, life is life and courts are courts, and we prioritize life and health and safety and well-being above anything else when we're parents. Everybody stay safe out there. Do the best you can to make good decisions for your kids. If you've got some pressing stuff going on and you really need an answer, get in touch with us. I'm happy to see if I can be helpful. And I'll keep you guys posted on how we're doing down here as time goes on. For those of you that are out of state, our offices are pretty much closed. We're answering phones, we're answering emails. We're obviously not in court or depositions or anything like that today and tomorrow. Probably will be back up and running on Friday, but let's play it by ear right now to see how this all pans out. Stay safe, everybody. We're thinking about you guys.